On the line with us right now, we have a woman who's challenging Congressman Max Rose, who turned out to be just a wilted, rotten rose, a cowardly rose. Anyway, Nicole Malliotakis is a New York State Assemblywoman. She ran for mayor against Bolshevik Bill de Blasio and exceeded expectations, wildly exceeded expectations in that vote, though she was defeated, sadly. Anyway, she joins us now. Good morning to you, Nicole.
Good morning. Great to be with you guys.
It is great to have you. Listen, Max Rose voted yesterday for this impeachment farce after having, made some promises and pledges. He actually put out a statement. You tell us about it, Nicole. I mean, this is really disgraceful.
Well, look, since Max Rose moved into this district a couple of years ago just to run for Congress, we are seeing him basically flip-flopping, not just flip-flopping, but basically being very deceitful. When he was campaigning, he said he wasn't going to support Nancy Pelosi. Now we see he's voting over 95% of the time with Nancy Pelosi. He said he's not a socialist, but yet he's voting with the socialist squad in lockstep. And then he said he was against impeachment of the president. But as soon as another person said they were going to primary him, within 24 hours he flipped and supported impeachment. And yesterday what he did was he voted to continue the very expensive, the very time-consuming, the endless investigations of President Trump instead of focusing on what the constituents truly want, which is improved infrastructure, secure borders, lower taxes, better education for their children, better health care for their families. And to me, I think it was what I said was, it's Halloween, and his mask came off yesterday and showed that he truly is in lockstep with Nancy Pelosi, with AOC, with Ilhan Omar, and with Adam Schiff.
Well, explain this to me. I remember Denzel Washington in the great movie Philadelphia was talking to the company that Tom Hanks worked for, and he said, explain this to me like I'm a first grader. Max Rose won, if I'm wrong, correct me, in a district that is basically heavy with Trump supporters. He's running against you coming up in November. You are a Trump supporter. Why would he do what he did yesterday? If he has any real designs on winning and staying in that seat there, why would he side with Pelosi when, in fact, his district is basically Trump supporters?
Well, there's two things. One, like I said, he just moved in the district a couple of years ago, and so I don't really think he understands the district, doesn't understand the community, the people that he's representing, and how their views reflect their views. That's number one. And the second part of this is that he's afraid, as all Democrats are right now, of the far, far left of the socialist squad. And so, they're caving to their demands. They're allowing them to control the agenda in Washington. No one's standing up for them, which is why it's so important that someone like me is elected next year from New York City. New York City has, hundreds of thousands of people in this city that don't believe that AOC speaks for them, that don't believe Bill de Blasio represents them, and they need someone who's going to advocate for them. And right now what we have is either people who are socialists or those who are caving to the socialists because they're afraid of being primaried by the socialists. And that's what we saw with Max Rose. He has always been very progressive, left, liberal, just like, many of those who represent our city, unfortunately, and poorly represent our city. But what we're seeing now is that they are caving to the socialists and the far left because they're afraid. Because, as you know, AOC took out Joe Crowley. Now they started to take out a couple of state legislators in the last cycle. Now they're primarying many of the sitting members of Congress. In fact, I think all of them from New York City have a socialist candidate primarying them. And so now they're basically catering to them and allowing them to control the agenda just so they try to live another cycle. But what it doesn't work here in this district, because this is a very conservative leaning district. Look, Democrats do outnumber Republicans, but yet we tend to vote, even the Democrats tend to vote more conservatively. And so this type of policies that are being proposed right now on the state level, one party rule, city, state, and in our representation in Washington, I think are out of sync with Staten Island. And it
Yes.
shows, look, since 1981, this has been represented by a Republican, this seat, other than Mike McMahon, who had the seat for one term last year. So this is a major pickup opportunity, important to returning the House to Republican hands, but also to make sure that New York City has one voice of common sense, one voice of reason, in Washington to push back against AOC, someone who's not afraid to do that.
Absolutely, and that would be you, Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis, who is, again, challenging Congressman Max Rose in New York's 11th Congressional District, which is Staten Island and South Brooklyn. Look, Nicole, he showed no spine when it came to his colleagues' anti-Semitism, but just to hammer home the impeachment thing, he didn't just say, I'm against impeachment. He put out a statement. I want to read it because this hammers home the dishonesty of this guy and the cowardice, I would say, because as soon as he got primaried, he flip-flopped. But this is what he wrote. The truth is impeachment will only this is September 12th, folks. The truth is impeachment will only tear our country further apart, and we will see no progress on the enormous challenges we face as a nation. Impeachment will not fix our roads and bridges or lower the cost of drugs. Impeachment will not keep our kids safe from gun violence or end the opioid epidemic. And that's why he said he was against impeachment. Let the voters decide in November 2020. And then, as you say, he flip-flopped the moment somebody challenged him in a primary.
Exactly. And even worse were his statements when he announced that he was for the impeachment. He actually said that, all we're saying is that President Trump needs to prove to us that he's innocent. So he's actually, misinterpreting the Constitution, no regard for the law. Obviously we are a society when you're innocent until proven guilty. You can't just throw all these allegations, as they have been since the very first day that the president took office, and then put the burden on someone else to show that they're innocent. That's not the way our society works. It's innocent until proven guilty. They keep grasping for straws, and we've seen this. We've seen this over and over again.
Yeah, too much.
The president took office,
way too much.
Unfortunately.
You mentioned Cortez, Nicole Malliotakis, our choice for Staten Island coming up next year. You mentioned her and this idiot, this moron. She's out there yesterday supporting Katie Hill. If you don't know who Katie Hill is, she's the California rep who is out there having a threesome with not only one but two of her staffers, one male, one female. She's broken every ethic you could possibly break, and she's blaming everybody else, Donald Trump, revenge porn, all this nonsense, while she had to step down. And this moron Cortez comes out and supports her yesterday. That's all you need to know.
Well, look, they're very partisan, and that's the thing that I think, Republicans need to learn from. We do need to stick together, and we need to fight back, and that's why, the next election cycle is going to be extremely important, because we need a squad of our own in Washington, a conservative squad that's going to push back on these radicals. Look, what I would ask from your listeners is if they go to NicoleForNY.com, it is so important that we get the resources to run this race. If we get the resources, we get the volunteers, we're going to win this election. I have no doubt in my mind. But what you need to know is that the people that are donating into this particular campaign are people from all over the country, meaning, people from California are really pumping a lot of money into Max Rose's campaign. And so that's why we have to ensure that people from California, from Nancy Pelosi's district, aren't the ones who are actually influencing this election. We need to make sure that people from New York City put volunteers, put money into this race, and ensure that it's New Yorkers that select who their next congressman. The people of Staten Island and Brooklyn, we're getting a lot of support from within the district, which is very interesting to see the comparison. The percentage of money I'm getting from within New York is unbelievable, and Max's is very low. Most of his money is coming from outside of the state.
Right.
And so, that's something that people need to be attuned to as well. The socialist network out there, they have they're really pumping in money into all these competitive districts.
Nicole Malliotakis, again, NicoleForNewYork.com. Look, on another topic, you're an assemblywoman, and despite your best efforts, because you're outnumbered, these so-called reforms to our criminal justice system kick in on January 1st. The discovery requirements now, you give all the information to the defendant's lawyers, no cash bail for suspects except for a handful of violent crimes. The New York Post concluded an editorial by saying, New Yorkers should brace for a major public safety disaster. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, look, Albany has gotten really bad this year, and there's no doubt about it. And unfortunately, my 9 years, I spend most of my time trying to fight and stopping bad policy, and oftentimes we win. But in this fight, unfortunately, we were overwhelmed, particularly with the flip in the Senate. And they passed a bail reform package that will compromise public safety. And, the police commissioner said it, even our attorney general said it, in yesterday's New York Post. We have district attorneys, even liberal district attorneys, expressing concern with this.
Letitia James.
Look, the bottom line is this goes so far that if someone is stalked, if they're trespassing, if they come and they strangle you, they even assault you in the third degree, all those things happen, that person's going to be receive a desk appearance ticket and be released back onto the street, potentially to kill you now. That is the danger of this bail reform package. It goes way too far. 90% of those arrested will be released back onto the street to return to court on their own recognizance. We see what's happening with the liberal judges in New York City that are doing this now already with their discretion, and it's not good policy at all.
No.
We need to make changes to that. I mean, we can't. Look, I don't want to find out the hard way that this needs to be repealed. It needs to be certainly, at minimum, amended. But what they are doing is putting the people in danger of New York, and it's unfortunate. I mean, we have to fight back. You have to call your state legislators, particularly those who voted for
you got to vote right. You've got to vote the
right.
right way. But vote for people like Nicole Malliotakis. That's what you have to do.
That's what you got to do. And look, despite the Democrats celebrating today, we are convinced, Bernie and I are convinced, Nicole, that it was a win for Donald Trump yesterday and a big win for you yesterday with Max Rose, as you said, taking off the mask on Halloween and showing his true colors. Folks, go to NicoleForNewYork.com, NicoleForNewYork.com, and help with the campaign today. You're great. You're always great. Continued success. We'll talk again real soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
You got it. Nicole Malliotakis, once again, need to give her Staten Island.